Percy Jackson fans rejoice, we have a new episode of the show this week, episode 6 of season 1, and this is We Take a Zebra to Vegas. This is the very big one that I feel from the books. The whole Lotus Casino has always been one of my most favorite aspects of that, whether it was in the original movie, which was not great, but I still enjoyed it. I've always found it to be excellent. And specifically Hermes, I was very excited to see how they were going to be able to infuse Hermes in here, specifically because it's played by Lin-Manuel Miranda. And when the first look came out, I was like, well, that just basically looks like Lin-Manuel Miranda in a hoodie. But the one thing that I really loved about Percy Jackson and kind of diving back into this show is the one aspect that they're in the modern world. Like, everyone's just normal per se, and they are able to see all these unique things, and I've always been fascinated by that as a kid, and then growing up and being able to infuse those different elements into a modern setting, I've always found to be great. And if you haven't watched my previous review where I reviewed the first 4 episodes, I didn't get to review episode 5 because I was out of town. Episodes 1 through 4 I thought were great. And it easily brought me back the nostalgia of watching Harry Potter as a kid, and I feel that if you are a young kid coming into this show, you're going to be whisked away into a magical world. And what Rick was able to infuse into the show is the charm and delight that I remember reading in the book. Now, as a point of reference, I've only read the book once. I don't remember a ton of aspects about it. I've never been the biggest thing of Percy Jackson and made it my entire life, but I know so many of you guys have been. So please leave your thoughts down below. Hit that like and subscribe button for more. And how these recap reviews kind of goes, I don't really touch on every little aspect. I just review the episode as it is. I do talk spoilers, and I just kind of ramble on and discuss it like you are sitting here in the room with me. And with this episode kind of just kicking off, let's get into it. So, We Take a Zebra to Vegas is an interesting one. It kind of seems like that in-between episode where there's a little bit of a cool aspect with the time frame in here, and that's one aspect I've always been obsessed with in any sort of media of sci-fi, fantasy, is time. And when they notice in here that, the Lotus Casino, minutes there to them is hours outside in the real world. And it changes the perspective and changes a lot of things of what Percy Jackson's able to be. And as an origin first season that really barely touches and scratches the surface of what personally is in this show, I love this adventure, and I love where this season and per se this episode takes us to. Now, first off, I just want to give a shout out. I think Walker Scoble is just continuing to be excellent as Percy. I am obsessed with him in this role. I think he's great, and I think it shows his range as an actor. And the reason I say that is because when we saw the Adam Project, and even some of the behind the scenes to that, he very much was doing the Ryan Reynolds shtick. And it's fun and cute and awesome for that movie, because he's playing a younger version of Ryan Reynolds. In this show, per se, what I was so impressed with was to see how he really is becoming Percy Jackson. How he feels like this own character, and I'm not just being like, oh, that's the kid from the Adam Project. I literally look at this guy, and I'm like, he is Percy Jackson. And Leah Jeffries, who plays Annabeth in here, has been an absolute elegant and perfection to this character. And that's another thing that I'm so impressed with, because I've always liked the Annabeth character, but this is something that truly surprised me. I'm always surprised by child performances. What Leah Jeffries is able to give as Annabeth in here, I think is perfect. Alongside Aryan, who plays Grover in here, I think Grover always is just excellent, and I think he's so funny. But their chemistry, their working together, their friendship, it's really starting to come together. And I mentioned in my earlier review of the first 4 episodes that was something that I was excited to see how it elevates and comes about, because it's such lightning in a bottle to capture that. And I got shit for comparing this to Harry Potter, but it is a big comparison to it. And, you have the 3 original kids in there, and that was lightning in a bottle to capture that friendship, that love. And obviously, in a 2.5-hour movie, you have to capture that in the first film. And they were able to do that. And in Percy Jackson, I feel by episode 6, I can really see these relationships starting to fluctuate, start to come to life. And while I wasn't able to review episode 5, I love where that episode also went, specifically in the development between Percy and Annabeth, and I loved everything with Ares in there. But now we're in this Lotus Casino. And I think some people might view this episode as very much not filler per se, but a middle of the road one, the one to just get you to that next step. And I think that's kind of how a lot of these episodes have been, to get them on the next step of their journey. but it feels like this was the final building bridge to the last 2 episodes of this season. And I feel like this is a perfect one to kind of hemorrhage us to that bridge of episode 7 and episode 8 to where the rest of this book will take place. And in per se, I really like the whole Lotus Casino. I love the vibe, the aesthetic of it, this kind of bright vibrancy that these 3 are seeing for the very first time. I like how Grover runs into someone that he knows and how the Lotus starts capturing to him, and then you're wondering, oh, you find out that's being pumped throughout the whole place, so all of them are even forgetting it. And then they discuss with Lin-Manuel Miranda, who I like Lin. I think he's awesome in a lot of the things he does. Sometimes he plays the same exact role. That's okay. But what surprised me the most is when he notices who's talking to him, and he flips that perspective about talking about, how Luke's his son and how, parenting is hard. But that flip of an attitude, that flip of a coin was so delicate. And there's just something about there I was like, whoa, okay, we're going there. And I like how he just pushes them through the time thing and explains time's a little bit different there, and they have this discussion. And that whole entire conversation, one, impressed me that Lin-Manuel Miranda is playing Hermes, because I think he did actually a really good job. He wasn't just playing himself. But at the same time, that whole conversational piece really adds to everything that's kind of going on. And I like, again, how it's touched into the modern world. Annabeth swipes the keys. They end up finding Grover. They end up getting out. They get into the taxi car of Hermes, and Percy doesn't know how to drive it. And it gets all insanity, but then they get to the beach, and Percy's like, I have to go meet my father. And he goes down there, and it's been too late. The solstice has come faster than expected, and the war is starting. And that's about where our cliffhanger is ending on a dire moment for what Percy is still dedicated to do. Does not care if it's his mission or not. He's not returning to camp. He's going to figure this out. And as a con, as if I'm being a little bit pessimistic, that's the one thing I'm not completely sold on this. Now, maybe I just need to rewatch episodes 4, 5, and 6 all back to back, because I've overall absolutely been entertained by it. But the one thing I'm still not gravitating to is how fast Walker Scoble's Percy Jackson has just jumped on board into this entire mission, accepted everything. Even when it was thrown at him, I didn't think it was fully believable or fully accepted, and I was hoping that by this point I would feel that way. And again, maybe it's because I watched 4 episodes about 2 months ago, and then watched episode 5 yesterday to catch up, and then now watched episode 6 early. Maybe that's the part of the reason. Maybe this is a show that I need to binge to kind of feel that, but I'm wondering if I'm feeling the same way. Maybe I'm not, maybe you are. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section on that, but overall, I liked this episode. I think it was enjoyable. Not one of my favorites of the season yet, but I thought it was still a damn delight one, and I can't wait to watch episode 7 and episode 8 and see where this continues, because it's only getting better from here, and still, again, entertaining. I'm really liking that Disney Plus has another show that is not a Marvel or Star Wars or any of these other bigger franchises. It's another IP that they're adding into their belt that is something that people can fall for, and we just don't have enough fantasy series like this, specifically for younger kids. So I'm really excited to see the rest of Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts again. So hit that like and subscribe button, comment down below your guys' thoughts, and of course, until next time, stay classy.